Okay, so now we're going to take our knowledge of waves and apply them specifically to sound waves. In the next chapter, we'll apply them specifically to light waves. But for now, we're going to look at all these wave properties and see how do they affect sounds. And we've done a few examples of this already with the application of sound, but we're going to kind of delve more into the nuances of sound. So in order for sound to exist, there must be a medium. Sound is considered a mechanical wave, so that it has to have a medium to travel through. And we discussed this idea earlier. If you're in a vacuum, sound cannot travel in a vacuum. It has to have something oscillating. So with the example of like a tuning fork, when I go ahead and I strike this tuning fork on the sole of my shoe, it's causing this to vibrate. And so it's oscillating in and out and in and out and in and out. So it's going to cut to an animation right now that's going to show you visually what it looks like in terms of the air molecules in the tuning fork. And then it's going to cut to another video where it kind of shows you up close what that tuning fork looks like.
You can see as the tuning forks are moving out, it's creating a high pressure region, and when they're moving in, it's creating a low pressure region, and that process is repeating over and over again. And then those high pressure bands are called compressions, and the low pressure bands are called rarefactions.
Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate just how the tuning fork works, and right now you can see there's two different tines, and on the base of the tuning fork it says it's 256 hertz, and so when I strike it, it's going to vibrate at its natural frequency. And so the way this tuning fork is designed is its natural frequency, due to its length, its width, the type of metal it's made out of, its natural frequency is 256 hertz. So I'm going to strike it with the rubber end, and you're going to see it's going to vibrate in and out. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's definitely blurry. Okay, versus if I were to stop it, it's not moving anymore. Okay, so it's definitely hard to see how it's oscillating and it's causing the air to oscillate, but I'm going to show how it's going to affect how the water moves. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to put it in water this time. You can definitely see how it causes the water to vibrate. So when it caused that, as this is moving at 256 hertz and I put it in the water, it caused the vibrate to move at 256 hertz, thus splashing it out.
And then just a reminder, we talked about this earlier, but remember that the speed of sound in air, I gave an equation earlier. The speed of sound in air is 331 plus 0.6 Tc, where Tc is the temperature in Celsius. So for every degree Celsius, the speed of sound is going to increase by 0.6 meters per second. And then we've already discussed the nuances of how sound travels better in a solid than it does in a liquid. And unless otherwise told to you in a particular problem, we're going to use that the speed of sound in air is 343 meters per second. Okay. So let's look at a little bit about how we perceive sound and go over just some terms. So with perceiving sound, the two things that we kind of think about are the idea of pitch and loudness. So with pitch, pitch is the same thing as the frequency of the sound wave. And so for us as humans, the audible range for us is between about 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. And the reason we're constrained for those is just looking at how our ears work. So let me bring in my lovely assistant, the model of the ear. Okay, so here's our ear, and our sound waves are going to actually go into this tunnel of our ear. And then here is this long tunnel. And then right here at the end of this tunnel, this is your eardrum. So let's look at a closer look of our eardrum. So your eardrum is fashioned just like a speaker. So remember how we demoed the speaker with electromagnetism, and we looked at how we could create a current that could cause that speaker to go in and out? And a microphone is just the opposite. A microphone takes our sound waves and causes it to go kind of in and out. So this is essentially like a microphone. So you've got this very thin, almost like a skin material here. And that material basically vibrates in and out, in and out. And it kind of like, I like to call it like a pooches in and out kind of thing. And then as it moves, it causes the bones on this side of it to vibrate. And then those vibrations in turn stimulate a nerve cell. So this eardrum is basically our internal microphone, and it's how we perceive sound. So it's this eardrum's ability to vibrate that allows us to hear things. Now, there's probably some of you that have punctured your eardrum, whether from illness or heaven forbid you actually like stabbed it. But definitely that could happen. And it's just like skin, it can heal. But what happens is anytime you puncture your eardrum and it heals, scar tissue does form. And so when you have scar tissue forming in your eardrum, it inhibits its ability to vibrate back and forth. And so you do have a little bit of damage that can occur. Now, the ability for this to vibrate back and forth is the limiting agent. So the average is that it can vibrate as slow as 20 times a second, and it can vibrate as much as 20,000 times in a second. That's the 20,000 kilohertz that we can see. Now, the other thing with sound is loudness. And loudness is akin to the amplitude of the sound wave. And with a transverse wave, when we're modeling them out, that's just like how big the wave goes up and down. With a sound wave or a longitudinal compressional wave, it's how far in and out those molecules move. So when we think about loudness for the eardrum, if I have something with a really large amplitude, it's forcing that eardrum to stretch really, really far. And that can be damaging. That's why I tell you not to listen to that darn rock and roll too loud, because you're overstretching that eardrum. Now, just as you get older, your skin loses its elasticity. We've all seen older people and their skin's not very elastic anymore. The same thing can happen with your eardrum. And it can happen prematurely if you listen to music too loudly, or it can just happen over time. So because you lose elasticity in the eardrum, it loses the ability to vibrate at those higher frequencies. So think about like a rubber band that's stretched out. If it's too far stretched out, you cannot get it to oscillate at higher frequencies. So this is why when people get older, they lose the ability to hear those higher frequency noises. So that's why on the announcements, when that screeching noise happens at the end, some teachers can hear it, some cannot. Their eardrums are not as elastic as they used to be. So just even loud noises can increase the rate at which you lose that hearing. And puncturing this can increase the rate at which you're going to lose that hearing just because you're affecting this thing's ability to vibrate. Okay?